Hey guys, just want to make sure you can see my screen. Okay, and so my face is a little overblown. And so I'm super excited about this class today. So let me make my face smaller because it's really never that serious for you to see my face that big. Welcome, guys. I hope everybody's having a really good evening, good afternoon. I'm Daniella. I'm an executive career coach and strategist. And I'm really excited about today's session because I put a lot into this. I want to make sure that you guys are briefed, updated on what's happening in the job market, and you're able to ask me questions. So let's jump right in. I'm about to flip screens. If you can or cannot see me, please feel free to let me know. I am, like I said, I'm excited about this course because I feel like this is a conversation that a lot of executive coaches do not have. These are conversations where we are not brought into the room to be a part of these conversations. And so we just don't know. Okay. And so this is one of the first classes of a series that I'm going to be doing for the rest of this year. Really push hardcore pushing professionals to recalibrate their brands so that they can actually pivot up the pay scale. This is the course or the mini class, not on the radar, why you're being overlooked for roles that pay 250K or higher. And so I'm Daniela, an executive career coach and strategist to professionals who are maneuvering through climbing the corporate ladder. Maybe you're trying to get over 250. You're supposed to be in the fours and the fives or the threes by now. Or maybe you say, I really just don't know where I belong, Daniela. I just know that I'm carrying leadership and I'm not being compensated, recognized, or seen for it. Regardless of the case, that's why we're here. So welcome. So I'm super excited about today's session, and I'm about to begin. Okay, I'm just turning up my little light so you can see my little face. Okay. Okay. So, first things first, one of the bigger headlines that we're seeing right now is this. These are articles that are trending heavy right now about C suite leaders getting the boot, getting kicked out. We see them taking their whole team. If you worked in corporate, I come from oil and gas to be specific. Every time a CEO would get the boot, he would give us a letter via email as if he stepped down, when really we knew what it was. And when he would leave, guess what would happen? All of his team or executives or the people he brought in would also be kicked out with him. And so this is a very critical moment in the marketplace because it's determining who's the ideal C-suite leader, not just leader, C-suite leader. Okay. Right now, this is a market where we are seeing a high record amount, like over 3,000 CEOs getting the boot, getting kicked out, getting escorted out, getting pushed out. And the traditional look of the CEO is also changing as well. And so I really want to get into this because, like I said, this is a conversation that more often than not, people of color are not privy to. So that's why I'm really passionate about this conversation and this topic. As a former executive leader myself, I'm really excited to go over this with you. Oops. I'm sorry, guys. There we go. Can y'all see my screen? Let me blow it back up again. There we go. Okay. So let's go to the next piece. Good faces cannot fix margin. Let's talk about the execution gap. The market has shifted and is not something that's being communicated enough. Boards are no longer paying top dollar for the look of the traditional CEO. That has changed. And I'm just going to be direct and to the point. When we think about the traditional executive, it is a older white male that looks like Bob Iger, very nice face, super nice haircut. His team is full of white males. And then when we did see diversity, white women were the primary beneficiaries of that. All of that is no longer working. And so corporate is saying, yeah, we're not into the traditional CEO anymore because it's not helping us through our issues. And we're getting ready to dive into that. And so your typical look for the executive, that traditional executive that's 60, 50 years old, 70 years old, and he just won't leave until he retires, those days are gone. Okay. They want the people who carried those leaders. The lady that was teaching the CFO how to do their job. They want the person that was making the CEO look good. Remember how we used to, if you are anything like me, I used to have to put together presentations for my CEO, for the board. They're saying we don't want the CEO, bring her in because we have questions for people who actually do the work. Okay. And so this is where things are getting interested. If you go to a Wall Street Journal, you're seeing articles upon articles upon articles of CEOs getting kicked out because they are not the workers. They're not the people that know how to do the work. So when we start asking questions, you fall apart. Okay. They want the person who fixes, the person who knows what to do next, the person that's saying, hey, let's take this risk so that we can maneuver through X, Y, and Z. That is what they're paying top dollar for. So that boom time trap. Remember when it was record amount of growth? CEOs would hire what we call figureheads. Sometimes these CEOs didn't even really do anything. I remember I worked at a company and our CEO was always playing golf somewhere while we were left doing the work on these pipeline projects. So leaders who are great in public relations, they do good videos every quarter. They inspire the board because they so well put together and they come from these Ivy League schools. They look good in the magazines. They relied on the bench of hidden talent, meaning that person that does everything, those engineers that pull together everything. Keep working hard so that I can prop myself up against you. These are also leaders who leaned heavily on talent that was never really recognized. Also, when companies moved through this tech bus, they accidentally got rid of the people who did the work. So, what this did over the next 5 to 10 years is expose the talent. Like, wait a minute, how all of a sudden is it that your talent is sinking? How is it that your contributions have completely changed? When you combine ruthless talent cuts, like we saw with the tech cuts, you are left with the people who did not know what they were doing in the first place. And this is why we're seeing a dramatic tanking of CEOs. The figureheads are left standing in a crisis with no execution plan, with no strategy, and they cannot answer the tough questions, right? And so here's a hard truth. The market is no longer paying for that figurehead. They don't want someone who looks good. They want someone who knows what to do, how to navigate the storm. We took DEI out of our company. How do we bring it back in and establish trust? That's what they're asking. Okay. They're not saying what quick DEI program can we put in so we don't look racist. No, they're saying how do we respond in authenticity to the market who's saying we're out of touch? That's what they're asking. And the CEOs who are good figureheads cannot answer those questions. And so the boards are paying top dollar for the talent who can execute. So I want you to hear me and hear me very well. If you are the person who actually knows how to do the work, you're holding up all of these leaders, but you have no title. You need to stop marketing yourself as a project manager, a director, a mid level manager, and move into being that figurehead. Take ownership for what you are doing and contributing to your organization. Start pitching yourself as the ultimate leader because this is what the market requires. A lot of you have all of that, but you do not have the confidence enough to sell it. Another aspect I want you to consider is what I'm seeing when I prep C suite leaders for interviews. We're seeing almost an interrogation, right? What boards actually want to know is how do you roll up your sleeves and do the work? Don't tell me how you're going to hire all of these people. We're asking you where to start first. We're not saying go ask your team and your talent. Where do we start first? Are you too removed from day-to-day function? Have you ever worked with a CEO or a C-suite team that had no clue what they were really asking for and they made promises to the board that you guys knew you could not keep? I was a part of an organization as a consultant, well, fractional CFO or COO, I'm sorry. And then I was working with ESG. And I remember very clearly the CEO selling the board on stuff that could not be done in house because he just didn't want to get popped. Okay. And so now it has come to a head, and people like that can no longer hide. And so if they say, if we have to cut 15% of the operational team, do they know how the work gets done, or will the department collapse? These are the questions that they're having. And so for when you say they always doing layoffs and they never know who exactly to lay off, it's the people that's doing the work they couldn't. They want you to come to the front of the class. They want those types of leaders. So if you say, yeah, I've survived multiple rounds of layoffs, you might want to bring that up in your C-suite interview or your VP interview to say, I've seen how the ebbs and flows of an organization or one bad move can literally tank an entire organization. So it takes a leader who's bold enough to speak up and say, hey, here's where we should go. Here's where we need to steer in the midst or in a response to where the market is today. That is what they're looking at. People who have seen really bad decisions be executed, and we've seen those risks come to life. How do we avoid that altogether? Another thing is crisis management. Many of the professionals I work with, a lot of you are the people that they come to when things fall apart and it fails. So if you are always on turnaround projects, you're always helping these people work through things. Are you bringing that forward? They're no longer interested in the peacetime leader, the person who expects, everybody to get their job done while they just go stand in front of the board and look like, hey, we're working on it. I'm just going to keep giving you filler responses. The vanity versus value. Are they going to spend up the first 90 days hiring consultants, telling them what to do? That's where I make a lot of my money. A lot of the times, many of you overestimate the intelligence of the C-suite leaders in your organization. Many of them will hire someone like myself or another organization and use us as like back pocket information, meaning they look like they just have all the answers and they're so together because they're using consultants. A lot of CEOs are driving up the cost of business by doing this. And so the board is not looking at your resume. I get so tired of people, I need to do my resume over. If you do your resume over, do you even know what direction you're driving? Because they are auditing your resilience, your ability to spot a crisis before it happens and deter it, or your ability to maneuver through a crisis. That is what they're looking for. You have to prove that you yourself are the person who executes and you are the operator, not just a face or a worker bee. Okay. A lot of strong executives like yourself are not landing serious offers because you are experiencing inflation delusion. And this happens a lot with professionals over 45. You refuse to break code. You keep telling me like, oh no, I already know what they hire. They always go with this kind of a leader. So I'm telling you that time has passed. CEOs are getting kicked out. And so the belief that you have to have like 25 or more years experience to be in the C-suite no longer applies. Look at the CEO of Red Lobster. He is in his 30s. Okay. Also, please keep in mind, there is no executive with 40 years or 30 years of AI experience or implementation. These people are looking for people who understand how to maneuver through a storm. That is what Trump's experience. I've seen executives say, well, I have 10 years experience, but I carried the C-suite. Okay, so let's talk about what you did when you were carrying the C-suite. Those professionals are actually getting C-suite offers and CEO offers over professionals who have 35 years experience because you're just maintaining systems. Those traditional male CEOs and those traditional looks that we typically see are fading. So if you say, well, Daniella, I have 25 years of experience. Let me say this. If you have over 20 years experience, you are not probably going to find something right now in the market because you're not aiming high enough. Right now is the time, if you're seasoned, if you're a problem solver, aim higher. The whole, you got to work your way up and you got 10 years as a director and then you need 5 years as a VP. Those days are gone. The question is who can solve the problem. And if you don't adjust to this market trend we're seeing that's taking us into 2030, what's going to happen is you're going to have a boss way younger than you. Okay. The preemptive no. A lot of professionals eliminate themselves. They'll see a list of 15 things and say, I know how to do 10 of those things, but 5 of them, so I'm not going to apply. Well, it's CTO, so they probably want somebody more seasoned. I need you to stop doing that, and I need you to apply. A lot of the times, organizations are not sure exactly what they are looking for. So, what they are banking on is for you to give them some type of response from your expertise as to how you can get the job done. A job description now is them saying, we assume this is what we may need. It does not mean we have to have all these boxes checked or you're not going to get the interview. The imposter paradox. Figureheads who don't know the work have zero fear of rejection because they are blindly confident. And so, yeah, a lot of these CEOs and executives may interview better than you because they just know how to sell people on we got it under control. Whereas you're putting way more pressure on yourself. You are letting that deep competence breed hesitation. Well, I've been at mid management or mid leadership for 20 years, or I don't have that experience. And that's one of the reasons why they want you, because you've been in the thick of it at the core of where the problem is. And so when we pull those people up into leadership, we avoid risk, we can turn things around, and then we can begin to look at 2030 with excitement, not fear and dreariness, right? Another aspect I want you to consider is you are the fixer. Okay, so stop waiting. You have to stop wanting to check all of these boxes and, well, I don't have this degree or this certification. If you're doing the work, apply up. One of the reasons why a lot of professionals are not finding jobs right now, and I want you to hear me well, is because you are saying, because I'm not an executive leader, let me apply for mid-level management. You're not getting a call back because organizations are not concerned with worker bees right now. They don't even have a C suite or VPs in place. So who's going to interview you? So you would do yourself better by applying up the ladder and then talking, using that recruiter to navigate why they chose you so you know where to focus your interview. Reframe your role. Your job is not supposed to be a perfect match to a job description. A job description is a guess of what this person feels they may need to succeed. Okay. Show your value. A lot of professionals can tell me tasks, responsibilities, what they oversaw, what they manage. That is not telling me how you fix broken systems. That is not you telling me how you are a guide to the C suite. Go into the deepest space that you can possibly go and audit what you're doing. Okay. Leaders are being replaced, and companies are actually paying for profitability versus growth. Boards used to pay for hyper growth, like let's just grow at any cost. Now they're replacing the visionary with operational experts. A CEO can say, "Yeah, I want us to be net zero by 2030." And you know that's not possible. They want you to explain to the board why that's not possible and actually give them a real capture of when they can go net zero. Are you with me? The board is not able to sell BS anymore. And here's a perfect example. When we look at Harry Winston, these high end jewelers and Tiffany's, their biggest contacts and clients are not just in the US. They're not white people. These are people from South America and Africa. And so it would make sense for you to have people who look like the people you're selling to. It would also make sense to you to bring in more diverse talent. And we're not talking about race. We're talking about people from different areas of the world. We're talking about different cultures. We're talking about people who understand customs in different countries so that they know what lines not to cross in ads and trying to connect to the consumer. We're talking about diversity in education and certifications. The person who has no degree versus person who does, the person who does things by the book versus the person who takes risks. That is diversity. Diversity is not something that's just tied to race. Okay. And so that is what people are paying for. We need data and people who understand this data to lead us, not just these people who can just focus on growth at any cost. Okay. What they're paying for is agility over rigid experience. Okay. How are you maneuvering through your company, developing solutions and things that the organization can actually live by? Not, well, I have 30 years experience. Well, I don't have 40 years experience. They're probably going to go with that person. They're not doing that. Cross-functional fluency, a CMO who understands data privacy, a CFO who understands tech implementation. We are not looking for the person that just does CTO. A lot of the times when I work with professionals of color and we sweep through what they're doing, many of you have a duality. What I mean by that is if I say I did ESG, I most likely touched a lot of operations. If I say I did tech, I most likely had to deal a lot with finance and the CFO because I can't just implement all this stuff without regard to cost. I have to make it make sense to the bottom line. Are y'all with me? And so the question is, are you showing that fluency in the fact that while your title may say director of engineering, you're also director of special projects, director of capital, you're over a steering committee, you're also heavy on the operational side. That duality, that addition to your title and all of those things is what they're looking for. So just leaning on a title, I hear a lot of professionals say, "Well, I'm a VP. I have a VP of engineering," as if this person just understands automatically what you do. That duality, that cross functionality, is what top dollar is going to. The ability to execute a turnaround or transformation, not manage a legacy system. We are not interested in operational excellence. We're not interested in people who just come in, manage, lead, and oversee things. We're looking to rebuild systems altogether. So we're looking for that innovator. Okay. The question boards are asking, and these are real questions. You might want to take a note. If you're on the tech side, are they going to be blinded by industry disruption? Can you lead us through? Should we be saying we getting ready to throw $300 million into AI? Or do you need to be the person to tell the board that AI is oversold? Because it is. Anybody that works with large language models knows that AI is not in a place where you can replace an entire team. Cut it out. It's been times where I will cuss out Chat GPT and spend 2 hours to get it to clean up an email. Okay. And so it is not in, it's still in a learning phase. The talent question, if you're a CHRO or over talent, can they attract top tier talent in a tight market? Okay. What are you going to offer people besides pay? Do you understand compensation and how it works with Gen Z? Because they want flexibility over anything. Can they handle a multi-generational workforce? Gen Z, very different from millennials. Millennials, very different from Gen Xers. I'm a baby millennial. Gen Xers, very different from baby boomers. All of these people have different expectations. Do you understand how to manage that in a workflow that can produce top quality talent? And again, diversity also plays into age. We need people who are a part of the Gen Z movement, because I can tell McDonald's does not have a heavy Gen Z populated organization, because they would have told him not to eat that burger on TikTok. Do you see where I'm going with this? Diversity shows that we're going to have different angles so that we are not blindsided. It's not about race. This is something that has been highly politicized. Okay. The capital question: do they know how to allocate capital ruthlessly? Or are they going to bleed our runway? If you see that this CTO has came to the board 50 times with a new software, and you see that every time he recommends something, he's friends with the people who are selling it, can you call that out? Can you spot that? Do you know how to respond to things like that? Do you know how to vet these systems before we pay for it? That's the question. Ego, are they coachable? When professionals talk, here's the number one thing I notice professionals leave out: people strategy. You can be an Ivy League graduate, you can be the smartest person in the room. If you do not know how to deal with people, you will not become a good leader. There are a lot of people who like the sound of their own voice constantly. There are a lot of people who cannot be corrected. I like to listen to, I remember when Jeff Bezos was at a conference and he said that he will hire people smarter than him, better than him, people who everybody gravitate towards, because he is not looking to be at the head of everything. And so we do not have leaders like that anymore. We have people who are just good faces. And so are you talking about how you maneuver and work with people? Are you coachable? Can you be corrected? Are they going to fight the board when things get tough? When the board is asking tough questions, do you know how to unite people? Do you know how to make sure you're communicating in a way that doesn't threaten others? This is what they're looking for. If your interview strategy does not proactively answer these unasked questions, the board will pass on you for someone who does. Okay, it has nothing to do with experience. One of the reasons why your resume is getting passed over, and I want to stress this, I absolutely hate when people tell me, well, I just need to get my resume done. Ma'am, sir, if you don't even understand some of the trends that we're talking about now, getting your resume done will not help you. You need to have an audit of what you're actually doing and update your language. I have a class coming up March 22nd that I would love to invite you to, where I'm teaching you that. So this would be a great class to be a part of before you start messing with your resume, okay? First things first, one thing I talk about in my class on the 22nd is the doer versus the strategist. I'm an executive leader. Everybody come to me for everything. I manage this, I do that. We're not hiring those people. You sound like a doer. You're a reliable doer. You are a task runner. You're not going to get the offer, but you might interview well. We're looking for the person who can see things and pull it together. Okay? Executives go into interviews talking about the mechanics of, I hate it when people tell me I use the STAR method. Ma'am, C-suite executives are not using the STAR method. That's to interview talent that's going to work under the VP. Okay? That's an unspoken rule that most people are not communicating to you. Top tier earners focus on enterprise value that they created, the why and what's next. That is what people are looking for. Lack of a future casting narrative. If you keep talking about what you do now and what you did in the past versus as my organization is bracing for 2030, here's where I come into that long-term strategy and vision, you'll get passed over. Okay. The packaging problem, which is why I have that class coming up on the 22nd. I'm going to keep pushing it because I really do think it would be beneficial to you if this resonates. Top earners are highly visible and positioned as industry authorities, not just job seekers. Big difference. Okay. So that's all I have. If you would love to join the class that I am hosting, um, on the 22nd, which is Sunday evening, please let me know. And I'm going to drop the link in the comments. I'm getting ready to go live on my TikTok. Until next time, I'm going to be going live every Friday or maybe Friday and Wednesday or Thursday on LinkedIn, and then a different schedule for YouTube. My name is Daniella Green. Please make sure you follow, like, and subscribe. Let me know if this session helped you to kind of get a better grasp on things that's taking place. And I sincerely look forward to